Do you feel stuck in a cycle of relationship drama, like your relationship is some sort of telenovela or soap opera? Well, you're not alone. Many people struggle with really wild ups and downs in their relationships. However, just because this happens doesn't mean that there's no way out. There's actually a simple trick that can help you break free from this cycle, and it's backed by psychology. So in this video, I'm going to break down why our brains can get wired to be addicted to relationship drama, what causes it, and how we can break free of this cycle. So you might be wondering, why do we fall into this trap of extreme thinking in our relationships? Well, it's not because we're all drama queens or drama kings. There's actually something that hides within us that keeps us stuck in this cycle. When we engage in what we call dichotomous thinking, it gives us an emotional fix. Dichotomous thinking is kind of a fancy term for black and white thinking. It's very extreme thinking, and oftentimes we don't realize that we're doing it. And this is when we see things in real extremes with no middle ground. In relationships, this shows up as thoughts like, my partner never listens to me, or I'm always the one who has to apologize. This type of thinking simplifies complex situations into really rigid categories, often leading to really intense emotional reactions. And essentially, our brains can get addicted to this drama, this really wild up and down swing. So it always ends up jumping to the worst case scenario. But this dichotomous thinking is kind of like a shortcut for our brains. By simplifying very, very complex situations into extremes, we get to kind of feel righteous, and we kind of get to avoid taking responsibility. Because if you think about it, it's so much easier to say, you never listen to me, than to admit, sometimes I struggle to communicate effectively. But here's the thing, this dichotomous thinking comes at a hefty price. Over time, this extreme thinking leads to increased emotional distress, communication breakdowns, and recurring conflicts. It's kind of like putting a band-aid on a wound that needs stitches. It's going to feel better for the moment, but it's not really going to solve the underlying problem. So as an example of how this plays out in real life, imagine you're coming home from work exhausted after a long day. You walk in, and the first thing that you notice is that your partner hasn't done the dishes like they promised. In that moment, your brain might jump to an extreme thought, like, they never help around the house. Now, instead of having a calm conversation about household chores, you're kind of primed for an argument. And then your partner, who feels attacked, is likely to respond with their own extreme statement. You're always criticizing me. Nothing I ever do is good enough. And just like that, this small issue about dishes has escalated into a full-blown argument about your entire relationship. And this is the hidden cost of this extreme thinking. It turns minor disagreements into major battles. It erodes trust, and it creates a cycle of negativity that's really, really hard to break. And over time, this extreme thinking pattern can lead to chronic dissatisfaction, buildups of resentment, and even the breakdown of the relationship. So this dichotomous thinking secretly creates this underlying drama within your relationship. Over time, you become addicted to having a more extreme reaction because your partner has an extreme reaction back. So you feel like you need to escalate your reaction, and it becomes kind of a tug of war where you're constantly pulling back and forth with these extreme examples. So over time, if you're finding your relationship is this emotional roller coaster, it's often because of this dichotomous thinking. If you find yourself 1 minute thinking that you need to break up with your partner, the next minute thinking that they're the one and you have to be with them forever, this could be a sign of dichotomous thinking. What it means is that you only see extremes and there's no gray area in the middle. So how do we break free from this pattern that's wrecking our relationships? Is there a way to rewire our brains to stop this cycle of drama? Well, the good news is, yes, there is. And it's a very simple technique that therapists have been using for years to help people change their thought patterns. So what is the first step in this trick? Well, it's all about becoming a detective in your own mind. We're looking for those sneaky little words that signal this dichotomous thinking, this extreme thinking. Words like always, never, perfect, or terrible. These are your red flags, your trigger words for you. When you catch yourself using these or thinking these, it's time to take a pause and take a closer look. But it's not just about the words that we say out loud, it's also about the thoughts swirling around in our heads. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, my partner is the worst listener in the world, that is dichotomous thinking in action. By learning to spot these extreme thoughts, you're already halfway to changing them. And if you're a fellow ADHDer like me, then this dichotomous thinking can actually be something that we can fall into really easily without even recognizing it. Oftentimes, these extreme point of views are kind of difficult to find because these extreme thoughts and these extreme ideas can become so tied to us that we don't even recognize that they're there. Sometimes we have friends, family, or partners trying to point them out to us, and we can be blind to them. So it can be very, very difficult to self-reflect and see these thought patterns. So it's really crucial to start developing this self-awareness and recognizing these thought patterns and seeing the impact that they're having on our actions as well. Once you've identified these extreme thoughts, the next step is to name these emotions accurately. And this sounds a little bit simple, to be honest, but it's surprisingly tricky. A lot of us have a habit of exaggerating our feelings. So instead of saying, I feel angry, we jump to, I'm furious, I'm livid, I'm devastated. This exaggeration actually ends up fueling the drama cycle that we're trying to break. So practicing naming your emotions without the extra spice is pretty crucial. So ask yourself, are you really furious or are you just frustrated? Are you truly devastated or are you just disappointed? This small shift can make a big difference in how you react to situations. Being able to name these thoughts with real nuance and not these two extremes is really crucial to dialing down the drama within your relationship. But the real magic happens in the next step. This is where we introduce the both and statement. And this is a simple yet powerful tool to replace those extreme thoughts with a lot more balanced ones. So here's how it works. Let's say you catch yourself thinking, my partner never listens to me. Instead, try this. My partner sometimes struggles to listen, and there are times when they really hear me. You see what we did there? We acknowledged both the negative and the positive aspects of the situation. This both and thinking allows for a lot more nuance and complexity. This is upgrading your brain from black and white thinking. The more that you do this, the more that you're able to see the shades of gray and every other color in between in your relationship. As another example, instead of saying, I always have to do everything around the house, try, I often do a lot of housework, and there are times when my partner contributes too. This statement acknowledges your effort, whilst also recognizing that your partner's contributions, however small or big they may be, still exist. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great in theory, but how does it actually help my relationship? Well, this shift in thinking can lead to a lot more stable emotional responses and a lot better communication. When you're not stuck in this extreme thinking, you're less likely to react with intense anger or sadness. You're more open to having constructive conversations instead of everything being drawn to heated arguments. The more that we start to balance this thinking within the relationship, the more it creates a safe space for change and growth within the relationship. And the best thing about this is that you leading this change and you bringing your own black and white thinking down to a more reasonable, nuanced gray level means that your reactions won't be as extreme, and this will dial down your partner's reactions to your actions. You know, one of the biggest influences on our partner's behavior is our own behavior. So when we dial down our extreme thinking, our extreme views, and our extreme reactions, it actually has the knock-on effect of dialing down our partner's extreme views and our extreme reactions. So for example, internally, when you acknowledge that your partner sometimes listens as well, you're more likely to notice and appreciate those moments. And this positive reinforcement can encourage more of the behavior that you want to see. And starting to identify these thought patterns are what I work on with all of my successful Ultra Normal members. And if you want to join us, then sign up for the free Relationship Bootcamp, where you'll learn the same steps to start turning your relationship around today. Click on the link in the description down below to reserve your place. Now, it's really important to note that this isn't about ignoring real problems in the relationship. If your partner truly never listens or never helps around the house, then that is an issue that needs to be addressed. But more often than not, the reality lies somewhere in the middle. And by recognizing this, you're better equipped to address issues calmly and effectively. And of course, this is just about recognizing our own extreme thinking. It's also crucial to make sure that we're holding our partner accountable for their emotions as well, to be able to recognize those extreme points of view as well. But a lot of people handle holding their partner accountable in the wrong way. So if you do want a deeper dive into how to hold your partner accountable correctly, then I'll leave you with this video right here. I'll see you over there.